I'm attorney Mark Nicholson from the Law Office of Mark Nicholson, also known as the Battery Man, for my focus on criminal battery cases. Now, this is the moment we've all been waiting for, which is the sentence of Jonathan Majors. Now, if you remember, I said he wasn't going to face any jail time. I did not think he was going to face any jail time, and of course, he did not get jail time. But one of the things I did say is that I thought the judge would sentence him to a domestic violence program, some kind of mental health counseling, a batterers program, something of that nature. And guess what? That's exactly what the court did. Some people were saying, hey, he wasn't convicted of domestic violence, so I don't know why he would get sentenced to that. He wasn't convicted, all this kind of stuff like that. But if you recall in one of the videos that I posted, I said specifically that this is most likely the type of sentence he would get. He was also ordered into some mental health counseling, or continue on in his mental health counseling. Something else I said that he would probably. So that's basically his sentence. Now, kind of going through some of the details of his sentence, it was basically a 52-week in-person domestic violence intervention program. Now, that's pretty steep. 52 weeks in person. Now, he asked if he could, or his attorney basically asked if some of those could be virtual because he plans on working and being in the movies again. And the court said, you can file a motion and let me know if you have something going on, basically, that would require him to do it by video and not in person. So I would imagine some of those will be able to be in person and some will be by video if he has a good enough reason. Now, basically, the prosecutors got what they wanted in this case, because normally when you have someone with a first-time offense, someone that has no history of this, at least convictions in the past, this is usually something that is maybe a 1-week program and then it's done, right? But he got a full year. This is something that's slightly more than usual, because normally you're talking about maybe a 1-week program and maybe some community service where he could pay a fine. So it's really interesting that the judge gave him a year of this in-person domestic violence counseling. So it's almost like the judge was maybe not happy that he ended up getting found not guilty on those other more serious charges. And this is kind of a way to punish him, even though he wasn't convicted of that. And I've seen it happen in my cases. I've had cases where my client was basically not guilty on all the felony case charges, but was found guilty on some misdemeanor charges. And then the judge maxes them out on the misdemeanor because in the judge's mind, this person should have been found guilty of the felonies. So I've seen that myself. Sounds like there may have been some of that going on. But also, I think that the interview, once again, I did not think that interview was really a good idea. And that's why I'm wearing this shirt that says, that's a horrible idea. What time? So once again, I think that interview that he gave to the news was not really a good idea, because they used that in a sense to punish him. You know, the prosecutor said it showed he did not have remorse. And also you have to think about this. He specifically chose not to testify at his criminal trial. But then after the verdict comes out not in his favor, then he goes on TV and says he's shocked by it, his story didn't get out, and things like that. So it seemed to be, in my opinion, not really the best move, because he didn't testify at trial. Then fast forward to a sentencing hearing, and he has the opportunity to make a statement, and he chooses not to make a statement. And those are all his rights. So I'm not saying he had to do it, because he has a right not to do it. But if you're going to go out and make a statement publicly to the media about your case, then maybe you should make that in the courtroom as well, because that's really where it's going to matter, in the courtroom, about your sentence and about whether you're not whether or not you were found guilty or not guilty. So it seems like the more appropriate form would have been for him to do it in the courtroom. Now, once again, I say that without having all the evidence in the case, not knowing all his background, all the stuff that stayed out of the trial, that if he testified maybe would have come in to the trial. So I'm just saying that as someone that is an outside observer, that I do think that interview in the court did not necessarily help him, because it showed that he was not happy with the verdict and he wanted to get his story out, but he had an opportunity to get his story out and he didn't. Now, that said, Jonathan Majors still came in the court with the Bible, with his girlfriend. He took time to, acknowledge, shake hands with his supporters, even though he's going through this very difficult time. So he is definitely someone that no matter what all he has going on, he's recognizing that there are people that still care about him and want him back in the movies. And look, all these people that we've seen who've had all kind of bumps along the road in their life, myself included, have the opportunity to continue on in a career. So I don't think this particular case here is something that should derail him for his whole entire life. Look at Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson is someone that was actually convicted of a more serious offense and somehow has turned it around. Now, a lot of people don't think that he should have been convicted or if he was innocent, that kind of thing. But the fact of the matter is, he was convicted of a more serious offense and he's made a huge career by doing movies still and just, getting on TV constantly. Everybody knows Mike Tyson. So the idea that Jonathan Majors cannot come back from this, I think, is ludicrous, because there is plenty of opportunity for him to come back and continue a career in Hollywood and make a whole lot of money. Obviously, he's not going to make the money that he would have made had this never happened and the trajectory that he was going on, but there's still money out there to be made. Another point about his sentence is on September the 13th, if he's not in compliance, it's like a compliance date to make sure that he's still doing his classes, his counseling. If he's not in compliance, then the judge can sentence him to 364 days in jail. So he is still technically facing jail time if he does not do what he's supposed to do. Now, I have no reason to believe that he would not finish the classes, counseling. I do think he's a good man. He's going to try to do what he's supposed to do to get this behind him by taking his classes, by continuing on in counseling and get this behind him so he can continue on in his career. Now, it's going to be a little difficult because there is a civil suit that Grace is filing against him as well. So she's filing a civil suit. There on the civil suit, it's going to make it harder for him to remain silent because you technically don't have the right really to remain silent in a civil case unless there's a pending criminal case. And so the argument could be, well, his criminal case is over with. So if he remains silent and doesn't really testify about it, then that could negatively impact him in his civil case. And for strategic reasons, looking at the broader picture, knowing that he has to potentially testify in the civil case, this will help by him not already testifying in the criminal case and not making any statements in the criminal case that were under oath and sworn, that now the first time he talks about it could be like a deposition in the civil case, and that would be the very first time that he gets to talk about the case. So it could be a bigger, broader picture where the reason why he never made any courtroom statements is because he did not want to do those while he was under oath and then get tripped up later. His attorney said that all they would try to do would attempt to use it against him in the civil case. So this could be a bigger picture that someone like me doesn't see because I'm not representing him in all these, areas, and I don't have all the evidence, but it could be very strategic as it plays out that's why he did not make any courtroom statements, because they know they're just going to try to use this against him in a civil case. So the first time we may hear him speak about it under oath will be like in a deposition or at the trial in the civil case. Going back to his criminal case, He does plan to appeal. Of course, they lost the motion to set aside the verdict, which I anticipated they would not win that, and now they will do an appeal. The main thing that courts do when they look at an appeal is they don't reweigh the evidence. They look at it based upon, did the person get a fair trial, and were there some kind of glaring omission that evidence came in that shouldn't have, or there was evidence that should have come in that wasn't. So I'm sure in most cases there's always something you can dig up and find to do an appeal. Whether those issues are strong enough to get the case overturned, time will tell. But first we need to look at what the attorney puts into our appeal to find out if those issues are strong enough. So I'm sure they're going to find something to raise on appeal. So at the end of the day, Jonathan Majors basically has to continue on in his mental health counseling. He has a 52-week domestic violence program that he has to do in person. So if he doesn't do what he's supposed to do, then he's facing jail time. Once again, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think he'll be able to take care of the stuff that he needs to take care of and get this behind him. That's what I'm hoping for, because I would definitely like to see him back in movies. And I like to see people succeed, even if they have made some bad choices. Obviously, I don't know what really happened there, but I'm not convinced things happened in the way that they were described in the courtroom. And definitely, I do think it was probably a lapse of judgment for him to continue on this relationship with her for an extended period of time, given how volatile she seemed to be. And now it seems like she's kind of money hungry with going after him in this civil suit, and she's going to ask for a whole lot of money, I'm sure. Well, that's your Nicholson Nugget of the day. Please be sure to like and subscribe.